Is it not obvious that you don't date exes in open marriage arrangements? It should be obvious that when you're in an open marriage with your partner, you don't go and seek out a new relationship with an ex who's got it all together in life. My ex replaced me after I suggested an open marriage. Let's make things clear. My husband stopped having sex with me, not the other way around. When my ex husband, William, proposed to me, he promised me that he would take care of me. He promised me that it was okay, that I would be a stay at home mom, and I'd never have to lift a finger because he loved me and he wanted me to rest in my femininity. I was so happy for that. He promised me all that stuff. We both thought that his engineering career would be enough to take care of us. Neither one of us ever wanted kids. So if it's just him and I and he's working and I'm taking care of the household, it should have been fine. When it turned out his source of income just wasn't enough, he started a consulting firm on the side. My ex-husband's main job as an engineer, that company only paid him $110,000 a year. You have to think about taxes as well, so you're not coming home with $110,000. I will say, I do have expensive taste. I could have cut back on some things, but I liked what I liked. And he knew that when he met me, and he wanted to keep it up when he started his consulting firm. It took about 3 years for him to start making really good money, but it paid off in those 3 years, and by this time, we were married for 5. My ex-husband claimed he was exhausted. He stopped having sex with me, too tired from taking care of me. I have a very high libido. Sex was 3 times a week. Sometimes even 3 times a week would be twice or once, but when he cut it out completely, telling me how things will get better once he finds good workers to take over the consulting company where he could just sit back and maybe just go in a few days a month. It just never happened. He was always doing most of the work himself along with someone else. He had to fire someone who claimed they knew what they were doing, but they really didn't. It was really hard for him, but I'd think that you'd want sex. Sex will make everything better. If you're stressed out from everyday life, an orgasm would help that. At least escape from the madness for some time. My husband didn't see it that way. About 2 months of not having sex at all, trying to get him up, and he couldn't. I begged him to take pills for ED, he refused. I told him we should have an open marriage. I let my ex-husband know that I was not happy. I needed more. I demanded that he figure out hiring someone for the consulting firm to free up more time so we can have the money and I get what I want too. Sex and attention. Intimacy isn't just sex for all that's listening. We didn't cuddle anymore. We didn't watch movies anymore. We didn't go on dates anymore. I get it. I do understand. He was really focused on making sure we had everything we needed. But as a man, he needed to figure it out. And he just couldn't. So I thought an open marriage would fix everything. I'm getting the money I want and I'm getting taken care of. He's happy taking care of me and I'll be able to get sex. Everything was supposed to be perfect. It didn't turn out that way, so I never laid out any ground rules. Like I said, it should be common sense that you don't deal with someone you've known before, and falling in love isn't something that you should do in an open marriage. This is just to get your rocks off, but you go home to the person you truly love. My ex-husband accepted it. He told me fine if it makes you happy. I asked him if he had anyone in mind, and he said no, he's too focused on work. So in a way, he sort of lied to me because he went straight into the arms of his ex-girlfriend from college, the girl that he was supposed to marry, but she went off to become a lawyer and she's pretty big time. In fact, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have to work today. I'd be getting unlimited alimony or something. She told him how to trick me. I'm sure of it, but she helped him out, and she stole my husband from me. I have met her twice before. She actually attended our wedding. They broke up in college. They remained best friends, and he knew people that she was dating, and vice versa. After he explained it to me, and I met her, I didn't feel threatened by her at all. Looks-wise, she didn't really compare to me, so I wasn't really worried, and she was a sweet girl. I don't like her now because I knew she had a motive all along. But before I wasn't threatened. I didn't care that she came to the wedding. I actually found it kind of amusing that his ex that wanted to marry him was at our wedding, watching him marry me. I thought it was pretty entertaining, actually, so trying not to drag this out. My ex husband and I agreed on an open marriage. He was okay with it, so I started to look on dating apps. I didn't have any luck there. I was actually pretty disgusted by a lot of guys. So, yes, I was looking for hookups, but something about these guys having mediocre careers really bothered me, and it turned me off. It wasn't sexy. I guess I was kind of hoping to find doctors and lawyers and prestige people. People who'd done things with their life, not mechanics and bartenders. I don't want that type of hookup from those types of guys. So I actually didn't have any luck for quite some time until I met someone at my doctor's appointment. I typically never eat food in the hospital, but this day I just felt really good about myself. I was doing really well as far as health-wise, so to be transparent, I had surgery. The first year my ex-husband and I were married, I wasn't huge, but I definitely had too much weight on me to where I was able to get this minor surgery to help me lose weight, and it helped out tremendously. And I've worked out often during my marriage, staying in great shape. Every once in a while, I'd reward myself to a slice of pizza, but it's every once in a while, and I mean like maybe every 3 months or so. In between those rewards, I ate healthy, mainly plant-based, but very, very healthy. I'm very strict and prepare whatever my ex-husband wanted. Anything he wanted. It didn't bother me. If he wanted a cheeseburger and fries or fried chicken, fried pork chops, whatever he wanted, I'd make. I'd also make vegetables as well and make sure he ate those on top of the food he wanted to eat. He wasn't in bad shape at all. My ex-husband is in really good shape. He just likes to eat food. My problem was I stayed away from it because once I like something, I'll keep doing it. And I was able to stay in shape because I like working out. I like eating healthy. I forced myself to be that way. This is why it's easy for me to do it. Anyway, I was at the hospital after my appointment, and I decided to go down to the cafeteria, and I wanted a big slice of pepperoni pizza, cup of ice water, and a side salad. And I went over to sit, and this doctor, he was a doctor, he had his coat on, he kept eyeballing me. I could feel this man looking at me. He just had this power about him. I looked up and looked right into his eyes. I smiled and I looked back down, and I was so afraid to eat my pizza. Afraid thinking I looked like a pig, but I've always felt like that chubby girl. Anyway, I was a little shy, but I looked back up and he was walking over towards my table. He had his tray in hand and he asked if he could join me. I told him absolutely. He sat down and we talked and we laughed, and he called out my ring on my finger. I was so embarrassed and I put my hand down under the table, and he says, "Why would you do that? You're ashamed of being married." I told him, "No, I love my husband. It's just that I don't know. Am I cheating if I'm having lunch with another man?" He said, "Absolutely not." "How is that cheating?" I told him, "You know what, you're right. It's not cheating actually, to be transparent with you. My husband and I are both in an open marriage, so if I was actually planning to have lunch with you, it wouldn't be cheating at all. I'm being silly here." The doctor responded with, "Marriage? Wow. So let me ask you, how did you get to that point? How long have you been married?" I told him everything. I told him how long we've been married, and I told him why I wanted to open my marriage. He made me feel good about asking for the open marriage for a while. I felt bad after I asked my husband for the open marriage, like I was a bad wife, but this doctor told me if my needs weren't being met, then I had every right to ask for an open marriage. I could have just cheated on him and hid it from him, but I loved him enough to tell him that I wanted open marriage, and my husband accepted open marriage, so nothing is wrong. That made me feel so good. This doctor is very handsome and does very well for himself. He's not married at all, and actually he doesn't plan to ever get married. Says he doesn't want to, he's never wanted to. He invited me out for a drink that same night, and I accepted. I was happy to go. We sat and talked more, and he says, "Wow, you're not going to eat your pizza? You ate your salad." I said, "You know what? I just don't want it anymore. I'm going to give it to that kid." He kept looking at it, and that's exactly what I did. And his mother allowed me to give it to him. That kid was the happiest kid. I'll never forget that day. I remember thinking he'll never forget when a woman randomly just gave him a big slice of pizza. I'm venturing off yapping. So when I got home that day, I prepared dinner in a crock pot once my husband got home. I planned on telling him that I was going out that night with someone I just met. I gave him the exact bar we were going to, and I told him if I were to go anywhere else, I will give him the address because I wanted to be safe. If I needed help, I was going to call my ex-husband. He was okay with it before I left. I was getting ready. I asked him if he was talking to anyone. He told me he hangs out here and there, but it's a short lunch break, but nothing too crazy, nothing too serious. I didn't bother asking him who. I assumed it was someone he probably met on a dating app or something. It never crossed my mind that he would date a coworker and ex-girlfriend or anything like that. I thought he had enough common sense not to do something like that. With an ex, how easy is it for you to fall in love again? Anyway, I did go out with the doctor and we had drinks, and that night we did have sex. I trusted him. Well, he is a doctor. He takes care of himself. Sleeping with him on the first night didn't bother me. We continued to sleep together for a while. It was just him and I. I didn't sleep with anyone else. I didn't date anyone from the dating apps. I didn't meet anyone else. Guys would hit on me after the gym, and I ignored them. I come home to my husband after being with the doctor, and my husband knew all about the doctor, and he never seemed to get upset or jealous. I figured he was having a great time with the girls that he was dating. This is when I got ticked off. So one evening, both me and my ex-husband were to go out and be with whoever we were going to be with. He knew I was going to be with the doctor. I had no idea who he was going out with. I just knew he was going out with someone. Doctor calls me and cancels. This is the first time he'd ever done that, but I've noticed weeks prior that he'd been acting really weird with me, as if he was tired of me being on the phone. Short texts, it just bothered me. So I told my ex-husband how doctor canceled the date and we weren't going out and I was going to be home. My ex-husband was getting ready and he was smelling really good. Honestly, I started to get turned on and I wanted him. And I attempted to have sex and he turned me down. I got really upset. I was rejected twice within an hour. I got a little snappy with him and I demanded he tell me who he was going out with. Here I was giving him addresses and things so he'll know where I was, and if I needed him, he could come get me and help me, but he never told me anything. So I asked him, "Who are you going out with? Who have you been sleeping with? Have you been using protection?" He says he's been seeing one person and one person this entire time. I asked him if he'd been using protection. He said, "Yes, of course. I don't want to have any children or anything." She's not on birth control. I didn't ask him where he met her. When he said Vanessa, I looked at him and I said, "Vanessa who?" And he gave me the last name. I told him, "Are you freaking kidding me?" So, you're seeing your ex-girlfriend who you were going to marry. He says, "Yes, what's the problem? You wanted an open marriage. I told my ex-husband you should have known that dating your ex-girlfriend is off limits. You are a freaking idiot." I admit I should not have called him names because he was not happy after that. He stormed right by me, kind of bumped me a little bit, and he left the house. I was heated. I blew up his phone until he blocked me. My husband blocked my number while he was out with his ex-girlfriend from college that he was supposed to marry, by the way. I remember that feeling. I was crushed. I was completely crushed. When my ex-husband got home, I threatened a divorce, and I told him I was going to take everything. His retirement, everything, because I deserved it, because I didn't work if he didn't want that to happen. We need to close this relationship right now. Go back to the marriage we had. My ex-husband looked me in my eyes and called me A devil said I was pure evil for doing that, saying this was all my fault and I wasn't patient enough to wait for him to find someone to take over the business. He never really wanted open marriage. He just wanted to please me. My response was, "You gonna stop seeing her?" He looked in my eyes and told me yes. My husband lied to me. Doctor proceeded to fade away out of my life. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he found another woman or just got busy with work. I wasn't going to chase him, but I damn sure was going to try to find out why my husband's ex-girlfriend kept his attention so strongly. I decided to follow my ex-husband after his lunch break at work. Something told me to go on this specific day, and I caught him eating lunch with his ex-girlfriend. I walked into that restaurant and I confronted him, the both of them. I told him that I was going to divorce him and I was going to take everything he has, and I looked at her. I wanted to punch her so bad, right in the middle of her face, but I didn't. They just stared at me and didn't say a word, and I promised him that I was going to divorce him. I never went through with getting a lawyer. He came home. He did apologize to me, and my ex-husband cried, telling me that I pushed him away and I was pushing him into someone else's arms. I asked him if he loved his ex-girlfriend, and he told me he didn't know. He's confused. He says he knows for sure that he loved me, but he wasn't sure if he was falling in love with his ex-girlfriend. I begged him to stop seeing her and told him I won't go through with the divorce. My ex-husband told me that he felt strange now that I was threatening to divorce him and taking him to the cleaners. He said it scared and made him feel like I didn't love him. I fell to my knees and I tried to tell him that I indeed did love him and I wanted to be with him forever. My ex-husband said, "Well, are you willing to sign something saying that you would never do anything like that?" He suggested that I sign a postnuptial agreement. I looked at him and I thought about it, and he's crying, and I believed him again, but he was lying to my face. He had this all planned out with his stupid ex-girlfriend. I agreed to sign the agreement because at the time I believe that he wanted to remain married to me and I wanted to get us back on track. I was even willing to cut back on my expensive taste. It took 2.5 months to get the postnuptial agreement put together. He was working with a lawyer. Lawyer worked with his ex-girlfriend at the same firm. I had no idea. I never really knew what firm she worked for. I just knew she was a lawyer. This lawyer got everything together in 2.5 months, and I was just ready to sign it. And my ex-husband promised me that he was not seeing his ex-girlfriend. I believed him. I had all his whereabouts, and I had his location. He never lied about anything, so me signing this post agreement wasn't hard at all. Also in my head, I was going to take some money and open up another account just in case I needed to. I never got the chance to do that. I guess he was playing chess and I was playing checkers. I kept procrastinating doing it. I easily could have gone into his account and taken money out or used credit cards for certain things, but he canceled everything. And man, he really played a number on me. Not even 3 days of me signing that post-nuptial agreement, my ex-husband had me serve divorce papers. I was heartbroken. I told him he was the devil. He's the evil one. How could he do this to me? And I knew that witch of an ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, was behind all of this, and she truly was. My ex-husband fooled me. He forced me to sign that paperwork just so he can divorce me, and I don't get anything. How could I have been so stupid? My lawyer told me that he was going to do his best to get me what I deserved. It didn't happen that way. The judge felt horrible for me saying that if I would have never signed that agreement, he would made sure that I was taken care of until I could gotten back on my feet, but I basically signed my life away. It's what the judge told me. Judge said that his hands were tied. He had to go with the law, with what he thought was right. I cried my eyes out in that small room. I was hurt. Where was I going to go? I didn't get the house. He didn't have to sell the house. I got nothing, absolutely nothing. And my ex-husband moved on and he replaced me with Vanessa. They fulfilled their dream and they got married. I don't know if he made her sign a prenup or she made him sign a prenup. All I know is she actually does really well for herself. So, Vanessa actually spoke at a center here in our neighborhood. It was a center where my husband spoke at as well, and other professionals came to speak. Vanessa was there talking about her law career, and my husband was there talking about his engineering career. And I think there was a dentist and a nurse, and every question the kids wanted to know how much money you make. And everybody was honest. My husband talked about his salary and talked about his company that he started and how that money fluctuates. The other professionals talked about their salaries, but when Vanessa talked about how she made over $200,000 a year, everyone was blown away. And people started saying, yes, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a lawyer. So that's how I knew about her salary. So she still makes that type of money, so maybe she made him sign a prenup. I tried reaching back out to Doctor. He completely ignores me. I don't know which part of the hospital he even works in. I know he works in the hospital I go to for checkups due to my weight loss surgery. It's a big hospital. I truly ruined my own life by being selfish. Today, I don't have much expensive taste anymore. I can't afford to. It's wild just thinking about how comfortable I am now, though. I didn't need all those things. I didn't need those bags. I didn't need those name brand clothes. I didn't need to eat at certain restaurants. Heck, I literally, in my kitchen right now in my apartment, have a case of ramen noodles. I never thought I'd eat ramen noodles, but you could do so much with it. Making faux bowls, etc. I never tried reaching out to my ex-husband. I thought about it. I wanted to apologize and in a way kind of win him back from Vanessa. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm enrolled in community college right now. I'm a lot older than the other students, but it's never too late to go to school. My plan is to go to a university to further study an interior design and hopefully one day becoming interior designer. It's what I've always wanted to do anyway. Life hands you lemons, try to make lemonade. Hopefully my story is accepted on your platform.
Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. First, actually, let's not be rude. First, thanks for sending in your story. Thanks for sharing your story. Telling it from your perspective, I appreciate that. But honestly, just being honest, and I usually write people back when they send in an email and tell them, I'll briefly give them my opinion and let them know when I'm going to put out the story. But honestly, like I told you, you messed around and found out. You played with your husband. He was a good guy, man. He was busting his tail for you. Working 2 jobs, 2 different careers. He was an entrepreneur and he had a 9-to-5. And as far as I know, his 9-to-5 was paying him good money. But to you, that wasn't enough. And you even admitted, I have expensive taste. Now look at you. It took for you to get divorced and be alone on your own to realize that, ramen noodles aren't too bad. and I'm not saying, eat ramen noodles, but like, honestly, like 5-star restaurants aren't needed, basically is what I'm saying. It took all that for you to realize that. That's sad. I'm happy for your husband, and I'm not mad at his ex-girlfriend. She saw the man that she loved and wanted to marry being treated like crap. And she moved in and she swept him off his feet. She said, look, I still want you. You said they got married. It is what it is. You go messing around with some doctor. You weren't even concerned about his life or what he was doing until the doctor dumped you. He started to ghost you. Then you became concerned about your husband's whereabouts. Who are you with? Vanessa, are you kidding me? You idiot, and all this crap. You know what? You got what you deserved, honestly. Just being honest. Guys, if you want to send in a story, send it to truestorynation@gmail.com. Here, I'll put it on the screen. That's truestorynation@gmail.com. I'm going to catch you guys at the next one.